Thank you very much. I don't think it was very fair that I have to come on stage after Remy, because I can't do anything like that. Oh, careful. Anyway, thank you for having me here and inviting me here. I'm putting this aside so I don't trip on it. The first thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank Mirka Darankova, who did a lot of the organization, but more than organizing, I'd like to thank her for being very proactive yesterday. I prepared my presentation more at the last minute, as many of us did, and I sent it to her, and she wrote me back. She said, Kristin, thank you. I really like your presentation, except for slide number 7. I think there's a little too much on there. I think maybe you should shorten it, but of course, do whatever you want. And I thought, you know, way to go, Mirka, put me in my place. There was too much on there. I talked to my husband, he said, it's boring, get rid of your slides. So, I'm going to have one slide for you. You have the clicker? Right here. Okay. And I'm going to talk. I'm going to tell you about my life. I think we all have different experiences to share. This will be relevant for some of you, and for some of you maybe not. Hopefully you'll take something from it that you can use in your life moving forward. I grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey. It's a small town outside of New York. My father worked in Manhattan. I had lots of friends, I played lots of sports, I had a very nice life. I went to university as everybody in my town did. I grew up in a very nice area, so I never thought that I wouldn't go to university. First thing that I took for granted in my life, thinking that everybody has an education. Now I know that everyone does not have that opportunity. And when I went to university in the States, we usually apply to many different universities, and then we make a decision which one we want to go to. And one of the universities that I got into, I went to spend a weekend there to see the feeling of the campus, and the girl that I was staying with played on the volleyball team. So she said, I hope you don't mind, we're going to go to a party with a lot of my friends. They're all from Puerto Rico, so everyone's going to speak Spanish. I thought, okay, well, why not? So we went to the party. I stayed up till 7 in the morning with all these people from Puerto Rico speaking Spanish and dancing merengue. And this was my first experience of the international community, and it opened my eyes. And I was 17 years old, I was still in high school, and that was a determining factor for me to go to the University of Hartford. I spent the next 4 years at the University of Hartford. I studied psychology. They had a very big international group of students there. They had an international business school. So I spent a lot of my time at the international parties. And and studying. And I was really heartened by the difference of the people in the world, and that I had grown up in a very small town where I thought that was the world. And I thought, you know, I want to see more. So my junior year, I studied abroad. I went to one of the universities in London. There were not, at that time, this was 1990, there were not a lot of choices for studying abroad. I mean, now you can study anywhere. You can study in China, you can study in Brazil. But I went to London, so it wasn't a real big culture shock. But during the Easter break, I had 5 weeks off. And I backpacked and I traveled all around Europe, you know, doing the night trains and everything. And I came back to America thinking, why are all you guys still here? You got to go see the world. And right after I finished college, I was still in my senior year, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to New York and getting a job. I have to travel first. And I thought, how am I going to do this? I don't speak another language. I don't have any experience. And then I heard that your Disney was opening, and I thought, that's my ticket to Europe. So I found somebody who was recruiting for Euro Disney, and I was certain I was going to get this job. 5 minutes into my interview, the guy said, I'm sorry, you don't speak French. We don't have a job for you. Well, I called this guy every single week. Anything turn up, any opportunities, until he gave me a job. The day before my graduation, I had a job offer in my mailbox at the university, and that was it. I broke up with my boyfriend of almost 4 years. I packed my bags. I studied French, and I worked 2 jobs over the summer to make money. 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I got a note from Euro Disney, or from the French government, that they wouldn't accept my visa because I didn't speak French. And I thought it was the end of the world, and here I was, 21 years old. what the hell am I going to do now? This was my plan. And I think I probably went through a couple weeks of depression. And then I got this phone call from a guy who lived in the house where I studied in London. And he said, you know, Kristin, I'm going to go to Prague. You want to come? I said, I'm not going without a job. He said, fine, I'm going. I'll call you when I get there. A couple weeks later, he called me and he said, okay, you can come, you'll find a job, but you'll never find housing. And I'm living on the floor with 4 other guys in an apartment in Prague. So I don't know what to tell you. And I said, okay, well, I'll think about it. And I was doing various jobs. One of them was teaching aerobics, and I was in my aerobics class, and there was this real snobby woman, and she came up to me and she said, what do? You're just an aerobics instructor? And I said, no, I'm moving to Prague. I'm just looking for housing. She said, really? I'm Czech. I have an aunt who lives in Prague. Maybe you can live with her. 2 weeks later, I was in Prague living with her aunt. I paid 500 crowns a month. And I moved to a place which was so different from what I was used to. There were so many cultural differences I didn't understand. I came in, I wore my shoes in the house. I took half-an-hour showers. I blow-dried my hair for 20 minutes. I mean, all these things that just didn't work there. But these people were so kind to me. They didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Czech. Pani Prokopova, she baked for me all the time. So if I would go out, those days I went to a lot of bars and clubs, come home at 3 o'clock in the morning, there'd be palatchinki on my on my pillow waiting for me when I got home. Anyway, so I said, okay, this is fun. And after a few days, I said, okay, I need to get a job. And within 1 week I was working. I was an English teacher at the Caledonian School, and I went in, I had my resume, I was dressed up. The guy didn't even ask me any questions. He said, you have first class on Monday. So here I was, no experience, no training, and I start teaching English. Oh, it's fun, it's interesting, but I wasn't making enough money. So after a couple weeks, I told the school, you have to give me more hours, I'm going to have to find another job. So I became the official teacher to Petr Mach, if anyone knows Petr Mach. He was a very interesting guy, to say the least. He was 26 years old. I was, I think, 21 or 22 at the time. And he was the owner of Sparta Football. So he brought me with him everywhere he went. And it was sort of like a gangster movie or something, you know? It was like, I wasn't really sure if this job was safe or not. And after about 6 weeks, I thought, okay, enough with the fun. Time for me to move on. I have a university degree. And I got a job at a company called First Praha Consulting, and I was responsible for a very interesting project, which was we were going to create business clothes for the Czech community. I don't know if you remember at the time, but at the time, a nice suit cost 15,000, 20,000 crowns. People were making 7,000 crowns a month in 1992. So this was my project. We were working together with the factories, we were working with designers, and before we could move forward with our new designs, I had to sell 20,000 men's shirts, which were in the overstock of the factory. So I hired 15 students from Charles University, and I opened a store on Václavský náměstí. Now, I have never worked in retail, and I've never opened a store, so this was a new experience. And the biggest job that I had was training these students what customer service meant. Let people come in, let them try on the shirts, say hello to them, be friendly. And this was hard because it's not something that the Czechs had grown up with. It was something easy for me because I'm so used to it. Customer service is over the top in America. I was working 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And the first day that I took off, my boss came in and fired one of the girls that worked for me. He was a Danish guy. And I came back and I said, why did you fire her? He said, well, she wasn't smiling. And I was so pissed off. I was working so hard with these people, to make them understand how we sell in other countries. And this was my first mistake of being proactive. I walked into his office and I said, I can't believe you did it. You're such an asshole. So I made a choice to tell him what I think, and of course I lost my job. But in the end, it was an okay decision. I wouldn't want to work for the guy anyway. And then I really thought, what's going on in this country? Why are there so many foreigners living here in high positions, coming in, managers, general managers, starting companies, and they don't have any respect for the Czech people, and they don't have any respect for the culture. And it really ticked me off. So I said, okay, I'm not getting another job until I learn Czech. And for 4 months, I studied Czech with Pani Bláhová in Národní škola. And I studied with a bunch of missionaries, and after 4 months, my check was to a point where I could get by in a job interview. And I went and I started working for a company, interestingly enough, called Proactive. And I was an account manager. We did marketing and sales promotions and stuff. And I once again found myself in a situation with a foreign boss who didn't treat his people well. And I thought, what is this? We are foreigners in this country. This is not our country. So I left that job, and I got a position at Young & Rubicam as an account director. Completely Czech agency, 50 people. I was the outsider, and we had a lot of fun. And I learned a lot of things from them, and they learned a lot of things from me. And I spent 2 wonderful years there. I was the director of sales promotion at the time. And we started to get so much business that we needed to open a separate agency. And I heard through the grapevine that they were, the bosses were in from New York or from, I think they were in from Paris at the moment, looking for the general manager of Wonderman. And nobody had asked me. And I thought, why aren't they asking me? I've been running this for 2 years. Well, they wanted a man, they wanted a Czech, they wanted someone with more experience. So I made sure I got myself a meeting, and I put myself out there and said, I think I should do this job. And so they said, okay. So that my boss at the time, the CEO of Europe, he said, okay, fine, we'll give you the job. And he offered me really a pretty awful salary. And I was so pissed off at what he offered me that I told him what I wanted, which was more than double than I think I really probably deserved at that point. And I got it. And that was the start of my real independent career. I was 26 at the time that I opened Wonderman. And I have to say, it was the hardest job I ever had. I don't know if I would do it again. I spent 3 years living, breathing, crying, bleeding Wonderman. I mean, that is what I did. But I had about 40 people working for me, and I think the most important thing I got out of it was management. We were all doing something new. So when I needed help, I asked for it, and when they needed help, they asked me for it. And if I was open to people, and they were open to me. So I think that was probably part of the success. So I'm out of time, so I got to be, yeah.
Wonder Man, Wonder Woman, you about...
Wonder, I know, I'm out of time. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I had a good job and stock options in the company. But I knew I wanted to travel. So I said, that's it. I'm taking a trip around the world. And everyone thought I was crazy. You're going to leave your job. You're going to leave your stock options. I did. I left my job. I took a trip around the world with my boyfriend. And I went back to New York after the 1-year trip. What I got out of the 1-year trip was getting a wonderful perspective on life, seeing people who really are poor, who really don't have food to eat, who really can't have an education because it's not an option. I went back to New York. I'm really shortening this now, but I went back to New York, and I got into another high-level position in New York, and I thought, really, what do I want? And I thought, I don't want to go through life without having a family. I moved back to Prague to be with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and we have 2 children, a boy and a girl, 5 and 7. I'm a happy mom, and now I'm working very hard to figure out how to balance my work life and my family and a lot of volunteer activities I do. But before I end, I have to tell you probably the most important proactive decision I made in my life, and that was on November 21st, 1992, when I saw this really good-looking guy sitting in a bar at 3:30 in the morning, and I thought, I'd like to meet that guy. And I gave him my phone number, and I said, call me. And he is my husband today. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Linda.